President Marcos also confirmed the Philippines signed a free trade agreement with South Korea on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit. The FTA will boost ties between both nations and create more jobs. Returning now to our earlier story on rice, let's get the thoughts of former Agriculture Undersecretary Fermin Adriano on the price ceiling. Mr. Adriano, thanks so much for joining us. We used to be a rice exporting nation to our Southeast Asian neighbors, but now our farmers are the poorest in our country. I mean, in other nations, farmers are among the better earners. What happened to us?
First, good evening to you and to your people who are watching your show. First, may I just say that we exported only a couple of years in the 1970s when Masagana 99 was launched by the president's father. We have been importing ever since. That means that we have been a traditional rice importer throughout our history, except for those 2 years in 75 and 76. The second one that I would like to correct is the report of your reporter saying that we're actually importing half of the total supply of rice export. That is not true. There are about 40 million metric tons of rice being traded, exported by different countries. About 40% of that come from India, 20% from Thailand, and 17% from Vietnam. So we traditionally import about 2,000 metric tons annually. That's the historical data.
So, Ms. Adriano,
but last year we imported about 3.7 million.
So the question now is, how can we start reducing this importation of rice from our neighbors and improve our farmers' incomes, improve their financial situation, and improve their productivity, and ensure food security for our kababayans?
Well, the shortest route is really to increase the productivity of our farmers, rice farmers. That's basically the shortest route. The problem is that we are already putting about half of the budget of the Department of Agriculture, and yet we're not getting that productivity gains. The productivity gains is less than about 1% annually, historically, in the last 20 years. Our population growth is about 1.3 to 1.5. So our population is growing much faster than the amount of food that we can produce in the country, particularly rice. So we have no choice but to import. That is the main problem. So the productivity has not kept up with the demand of the Filipino people. So when we will see that kind of trend, in the next few years. The second issue there is that our farms have become smaller, too small, minuscule sizes because of the prolonged implementation of agrarian reform. We need consolidations. We need clustering, farm clustering, so that we will be able to apply modern technologies, farm machineries, etc., as Vietnam, Thailand did, that they consolidated.
Correct.
But because of the unending implementation of agrarian reform, so that's a major problem. We need consolidation to be able to attract private investors to invest in rice production.
All right, let's take a look at the issue on hand right now, Mr. Adriano, which is the rice price cap ceiling. Is this the right thing to do? Because many say this initiative will impact domestic supply and the livelihood of the farmers, and also will lead to shortages and black market activity.
Yeah. I think it's not the best policy instrument to use. Because if you want to make it sustainable, you have to use market-oriented policy instrument. You cannot legislate laws that will lower the price. You have to play with the supply and demand. And for us, the better policy instrument is to reduce the tariff on rice from 35% to 10%, or even remove it temporarily. Because the purpose of exacting tariff is to be able to raise funds for the Rice Competitive Enhancement Fund as provided by Rice Tariffication Law. 10 billion from the tariff is set aside for that fund. I think we have arrived at, we have gathered more than almost 17 billion as of August 23. So there's no compelling reason why should we keep on exacting tariffs on that. If we lower the tariffs, then rice imports will become that it will become cheaper.
Yeah.
Because the one that's pushing prices upward right now are the imports, not no
Correct.
longer the local supply.
And-
It used to be that the imported rice is much cheaper than the local price.
Right.
What is
So-
happening now is that the imported rice is much expensive than the local ones.
And that's why-
the reason why the local prices are being pushed upward.
And that's why, Mr.
So if you remove the tariff,
That's why, Mr.
35%
And that's why, Mr.
yun.
Adriano, I'd like to
Yeah,
jump
go
in
ahead.
here. That's why we're seeing rice inflation increase in the past month to 8.7% in August from 4.2%. Because this is, of course, as you say,
That's-
blamed on the production losses, not only from the monsoon rains, but also from major rice exporters like India and Myanmar, which is leading as well to higher international prices. But can we not also blame the manipulation of the big private traders, the rice cartels, hoarders, and smugglers for this rising price of rice?
It's extremely difficult to determine whether they're ordering or not, because in court it's quite difficult, because how many days are you supposed to stop to define that you are an order? Smuggling, if you allow smuggling, it will have the effect of lowering the price because you don't pay tariffs. That's the effect of smuggling, because it comes cheaper. So I don't think that's the one pushing it upward. The one pushing it upward is really the tight supply that we have in the hands of the government, particularly the buffer stock of NFA. So the traders, because of that, they are now speculating because there is little in the hands of the government, so they can speculate a little bit. And the problem is that this problem arose during the so-called lean months, during the planting season. Traditionally, prices go up from May to about June, July, because this is the planting season for rice. And then it goes downward end of September and particularly October, November, because this is the harvest season. All of those things, confluence of events, unfortunately happen when we are in the lean season of rice. That means planting season. And we could have averted it if we plant properly starting January or February this year.
All right.
For the imports to come in as early as possible.
So, Mr. Adriano,
unfortunately, the decision was not made.
But Mr. Adriano, we're seeing all of these problems happening under the leadership of the President, who is also the Agricultural Secretary. So is it now time for him to step down and get a full-time, competent Agriculture Secretary who can focus on the immediate problems of our farmers and our supply?
I think that is basically a lot of the people are saying that now. But I used to believe that if he was able to appoint technically competent Undersecretary, they would have averted this. Remember, during our time, it was the COVID pandemic. Everything was closed down during the time, during the COVID years for 2 years. But we never suffered from any rice shortages or rice pila. So in other words, if people are knowledgeable or advising him are knowledgeable on the situation, they could have timed the imports to come in during the lean season and minimize imports during the peak harvest season this coming October, November, so that the farmers' prices will not
So
be
are you
affected.
saying then, Mr. Adriano,
problem
the
that we
people
have-
working for the President
Yeah.
are incompetent?
I think the President has a lot of things to do right now. So he needs people who are really technically competent on agriculture, understanding, because there are different commodities in agriculture with different dynamics. It's not only rice you talk about, corn, livestock, poultry, etc., sugar. You need a scientist, an actual scientist, to understand it. But you appoint a politician, he might be a good managers, but it will take him some time because of the so-called learning curve. So you really need good people, good advice. And I think for this one, I think the policy instrument of removing the tariff or lowering it
All right.
would have worked better than the price cap, because in the final analysis, it will not be the trader who will lose. It will be the farmers. Bumabagsak na yung presyo, haven't you seen?
All right.
Babagsak yan because of the fact that traders will not buy anymore because they will lose money. Because the calculation there is for every kilo of rice, you need 2 kilos of palay. That means if you are buying palay at 20 pesos, that means
All right,
ang
Mr.
immediate
Adriano.
capital mo is 40.
Mr.
Then you
Adriano?
have storage, drying, transport. How could you sell it at
Yeah.
41 and 45 pesos
Mr. Adriano?
without losing money? Di ba?
We continue to face many
So
problems
nobody's
in the
going to buy to the
agricultural
farmers,
sector.
the problem.
Yeah, we thank you so much for your insights. We've run out of time. Former Agriculture Undersecretary Fermin Adriano.